Thank you for being here, and all of you are going to be part of a TV program to help us address a couple of issues. And I'm just going to briefly explain this painting. And I decided when I heard that George Shultz was working on developing recommendations to give to Congress and to give to the new president on how the country should go forward with respect to a climate change plan or strategy. And I looked over George's shoulder at his plan, and I then set out to interpret it on this canvas. And it was planned that on June 23rd at Stanford, there would be the Silicon Valley Energy Summit. And at that event, Stanford would display this painting. And of course, that is the plan. So I thought about citizen climate lobby when I was making this painting, because I knew George was promoting a carbon tax, fee, or dividend. And when I thought about the purpose of a tax, that could be seen as a wall between the greatest threat we have ever faced, and that is the greenhouse gas monster. Here is the wall, and the tax or the dividend or the fee would make it difficult for the fossil fuel energy industries to sell their products. They'd still be able to sell their products that release greenhouse gas emissions, but it would become less competitive, and it would create opportunities to all sorts of renewable suppliers of energy, wind, solar, geo, and other. And it would also make it more attractive for us to think about using nuclear energy, which is basically the only significant clean energy source. So here is the wall. This symbolizes the fossil fuel industry, oil and gas and other things. And this is simply, it's not quite finished yet, this painting. This is a piece, I have to do a little work on it, but it's an oil well that's having a problem. And I tended to think everything, so much is based on a combination of the working of Congress and the White House. And I put the two together. And yes, I thought about the president, which I feel is a dysfunctional human being, and Congress, which I also think is very much dysfunctional. And I thought about the citizen climate lobby folks who are lobbying the members of Congress to try to get them to think about legislating a dividend, a tax, to make this wall possible. And as I thought about Congress and the White House, I also thought of them as the nation. And here is a hand which I originally wanted to put up with the attitude, maybe we could get Congress, the White House, to think about saying, stop, stop all this greenhouse gas, stop feeding this monster. But then I said, it's not too practical. I'm not too comfortable that we're at that stage. And I've started to work with thinking about, the country is sort of over here like this, and this thing is about to take off our hand if we don't do something. And when I looked at George's thinking, I had the feeling he was also going to promote more stringent, more effective energy efficiency. So I tried to come up with a way to pictorially present energy efficiency. And over here, since the White House and Congress is an enabler of some things that are not so good for us, like oil, I thought about this, and this is a spray of oil. And this represents various types of renewable energy, especially the sun. And these different types of energy sources, including the nuclear, would be going into this, which you can call a pair of pants if you like, or it's some kind of process. And coming out of this energy efficiency process in this case, will be becoming extra energy. It's a byproduct of energy efficiency, new energy. And here's an example of what we would do with it. We'd be running our electric grid. And then energy efficiency also yields money. It saves money for corporations, for individuals. And when I get around to it, I will be putting a couple of dollar signs, and those dollar signs will help fuel other energy or whatever. And then in looking at what George was doing and the influence has been put on me by Bob, Alex, and Rapu, I said another element of George's strategy would be to protect the existing 98 or so nuclear power plants in the United States that are a true source of energy and clean energy. And since I thought he'd want to protect them, I thought, well, maybe his plan would suggest throwing a life preserver to the existing nuclear power plants until the future. And the future would be the next generation of small, portable, walk-away, molten salt or thorium nuclear power plants that have been designed in such a way that thousands of scientists and nuclear energy experts believe are safe, cannot go amok like Fukushima, where they put the plants at sea level, or some other plants that had trouble. And so I decided to describe the process of these new plants. We'd have maybe thorium inside, and they heat up the chemicals and go around, and in the event they get hot, the uranium that's inside with the molten salt or whatever, if it gets hot and is any problem, the heat would make these pipes melt. Or, as Alex has once pointed out to me, or at least twice, a cap over here would melt, and all the chemicals needed to make the energy, heat this up and turn turbines, would just come out into a pot, and there'd be no damage, no problem. And I thought a lot about turbines. We need to spin turbines. We need the heat to turn turbines to get work done, etc. And then again, I thought about if there was a tax, a dividend wall, and money was collected, it would be very acceptable to the Republicans, the conservatives who are totally against a tax. And this would then be considered not a tax, but a collection of some money. And at the end of the year, that money, less a little operating expenses, would be given back to us. And the money would probably go into the Treasury Department, and it would come out at the end of the year, and all of us would get a check or a deduction on our taxes. And here are you and me waiting for that money. So I did take the plan. There was an earlier version of this painting as I was working on it, and I showed it to George Shultz, and he asked me to explain it like I did right here, and I said, "What did you think?" And he went, I said, "I can't hear you, George." And he said, "Ingenious." And I said, "Thank you for the compliment." And then he said, "And I heard you did a TV show with a scientist on this." I think it might have been you. I forget.
Yeah, I think the three of us were in it. Yeah.
And he said to me, "I heard you made a television show. I want that television show. Would you get it to me right away?" And I got it to him right away. And so that is the thinking. And I wouldn't be able to do this if you hadn't helped educate me. Alex, you helped educate me. Rapu. And now, since the Trump is running the show, normally I'm always getting invitations for NASA to show my work, USGS, and even the Department of Commerce last year. Right now, I have no more invitations from the government. It's only going to go out this June 23rd at the Stanford event. Then it's going to go in a closet or something's going to happen to it, and I'll work on another one, and I'm happy with all of that. Thank you for the...
Very good, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you.